What's up? I'm back. And this segment is gonna be short. Talk about science, why I think it's important for you in your spiritual journey. I've made a video about this on this subject before. I'm gonna give you what I would say three tools, three sciences that I think could help. Science is a thing that a lot of people in the spiritual community run away from, and I think that's why spirituality is lacking today, or it hasn't achieved the results it should have. Because science and spirituality should not be separate; it should be one. Part of it is the arrogance in the scientific community themselves. They tend to put down spirituality. And I find it interesting that now a lot of areas of certain sciences, like theoretical physics, is confirming a lot of spirituality, spiritual things that would have been either spiritual or sci-fi, science fiction, like parallel universes, other dimensions. String theory talks about other dimensions. Now, I don't expect you. Science is very vast, very wide, right? So you go from earth science, astronomy, and even say in chemistry. I mean, it's biochemistry, bioengineering. There's a lot of different types of sciences that if you just say, I'm going to study science, depends what areas. So I'm looking at it from this perspective. If you're spiritual, don't really like science too much, and you just wanted to get a basic understanding of it, because I've said it before in videos before, one's ego needs science and mathematics to heal itself. Part of the reason why science is so people run from it is actually because you have unhealthy egos. When the ego is unhealthy, science and mathematics seem boring. And I'm not going to even say it's only your ego, because Western education is designed to make it science and mathematics boring. But part of it is an unhealthy ego as well, because in essence, you can't really do anything without mathematics or science. And astrology, which is key in magic, is a lot of it is mathematics. So in a sense, when you look at it from a certain perspective, if you're not married to science, you're gonna have a very limited understanding of spirituality, because your ego is gonna be resisting things that it normally shouldn't, which is the key. Because if you know that ego, well, if you know that science now is confirming other dimensions, parallel universes, those are things that spiritual, um, yogis, science fiction writers have covered already. So then it would start to get you to think outside the 3D boundaries. Because the reason why science can't confirm everything, because it's still 3D. And part of it is it's going to be 3D if the users are 3D, if that makes any sense. So as you start to go fourth, fifth dimensional perceptions and higher than fifth, your science will naturally improve. So it's not really the science that's the problem, it's us. So in essence, to correct that, you got to have a basic understanding of science, because if you're in 3D perception and you have no basic understanding of science and mathematics, or you weaken those areas, you're going to probably stay in 3D perception. I don't expect you to study a whole bunch of different sciences, but I think these three will help on your journey: chemistry, biology, physics. I know some people may argue with me. I think physics, a basic understanding of physics and mathematics is number one. You need that, because even chemistry and biology has a little bit of it in them. So I think everything is mathematics, so that's not even a question. But I think physics should come first, especially if you're trying to apply it to your spirituality. But I definitely think chemistry and biology are important too, for the fact that, and then you may say, well, what's the difference between them? Because I'm talking to, like, let's say you don't even know any science, right? Think of it like this: biology is the study of complex material, trees, things that you would consider living for the most part, animals, trees, basically cells. Anything with cells. Um, you're going to study somebody who's into biology will study it. Biology is important to spirituality, because the ability to communicate with cells was a trait that the ancients had, probably way ancient, not even the ancients that we talk about now, but being able to talk to your cells and feel your cells are extremely important. As even when we talk about, for instance, when we talk about communicating to ancestors, that's talking about communicating with your DNA, your cells. Believe it or not, that's actually it. It's just that that's the beginning levels of it, but there's extended versions of it. So in essence, it's kind of like telling you to get into your ancestor sciences, get into your biology. It would expand your communication, or your even relationship with your own ancestors and yourself. So biology is kind of like the complex. This is kind of like the study of complex organisms, things that are usually living. Usually, um, I would say chemistry is kind of like the study of matter. So in a sense, what happens is chemists would want to know how atoms, go into molecules, and when the reactions between those things, because they're really trying to basically convert one substance to another substance. So, in a sense, the chemist is actually, I mean, when you talk about the four elements in magic, or you talk about the 112 elements or 8 elements of the periodic table, like, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, that's when you get into chemistry. You have to study those things because, in a sense, they're trying to convert one substance to another substance. So they have to study basically the chemical reactions between molecules. So when you look at it from that perspective, it's kind of like chemistry is alchemy on a scientific level, or it's a version of laboratory alchemy. It's a modern version of it. It's only based on 3D perception, so it's more limited than alchemy. But in essence, to understand laboratory alchemy, you have to understand chemistry because basically chemistry comes from alchemy. So chemistry definitely important. Physics is the last one. Physics is important because, in a sense, think of physics like, how chemistry is studying sort of like the matter, the substances, like, molecules, and the reactions the molecules have with each other into other substances. And then biology is kind of complex stuff, studying organisms, humans, animals, plants, bacteria, fungi. Well, physics is like studying atoms and everything below atoms, as well as universal forces like gravity, strong nuclear force, weak nuclear force. So in a sense, you could think of physics as studying everything that earth science, mathematics, um, chemistry, biology doesn't cover. It's much more wide, and you're basically understanding the structure of the reality that you see around you. And in a sense, that's why you're going to get into atoms and things below atoms. Whereas chemistry, you kind of go into molecules and tangible matter that you can see. Whereas physics, you get into the same thing, but on a smaller level. But then because it's smaller, it's much more expansive because it covers more areas. So I think those three sciences are things that are sciences that you can study and they can help in your spirituality. So I wanted to make this short little video on it because people kept asking me what kind of sciences should they study. I mean, if you're into earth science, studying minerals or studying the weather, of course, definitely study that. But if you're just not into science at all and you have to force yourself, I think those three sciences you will find, if you get a basic understanding of those three, it'll help you with your spirituality. Till next time, peace.